So you want to make money. I'm just kidding. So you want to make a little extra money doing something you really love. That's a better introduction. Part of my artist origin story includes an old warehouse and paint and sip classes. While working a 9-to-5 job, I found a warehouse on Craigslist. I converted it into a paint and sip studio, and I started hosting my own paint and sip classes every weekend until it got to the point where they were filling up so much. I was making more money doing this than I was at my full-time job. This, in addition to TikTok success, are the reasons that I left my job and I'm a full-time artist now. Now, although I no longer have that warehouse, I still do paint and sip classes once in a while. I'll do them where I come to your location, I bring all my supplies. It's often for a birthday party or a bachelorette party or a work event, and I still love doing them once in a while. They're just no longer my bread and butter as an artist. I did this for just over a year. And I learned so much in this year that I want to share with you the mistakes I made and what I would do if I was starting a paint and sip business all over again from scratch. So I'm sure, as many of you know, not everyone will buy art. Not everyone wants to spend money on art and decor, but most people will spend money on entertainment. Things like birthday parties, anniversaries, bachelorette parties. These are things that people are willing to fork out some money to make their event or their child's event fun. I'm assuming you're here on my channel because you're an artist, so you probably like painting, and leading a group in a painting tutorial probably would be fun for you unless you have crippling social anxiety, which I actually started out with. My first paint and sip, I was so nervous that my voice was doing that quivery thing where it shakes uncontrollably. And I was so nervous just to talk in front of everyone. And then by the end of that year, it was like a piece of cake. It was second nature to me. I could have done it in my sleep. So the first mistake that I made that I'm gonna tell you not to do is you don't need to start out by renting a giant space to have your own paint and sip studio. Unless you want to go all in and put down a large investment, I would suggest that you actually just start by doing traveling paint parties. Or additionally, find some kind of location where you can rent the space just for a few hours to do your first one and experiment. This way, you're not caught in a lease, you're not stressed about filling up seats to make sure you can pay the rent each month, and there's no commitment there. You don't have to keep doing them if you don't want to. So let's start with the initial investment. What do you need to start doing your first paint and sips? Other than the supplies that are disposable that you're gonna use up each week and charge your clients for, you have 3 things that you need to have that you're gonna reuse every week. Number 1, paint brushes. This is your most expensive investment. Take care of those brushes. Wash them every week right away. Don't let them sit in water cups for a week and then they get kind of gross, because I've done that. Number 2, you need easels. Easels to put the canvases on. You know, some people actually will prefer to just lay their canvas flat on the table. I always had some people that did that, but I think to make your setup look really professional, it's nice to invest in easels. And I just got the cheapest of the wooden easels I could find on Amazon. And you have to build them yourself, though. That did take me a few hours to put them all together. But I still have the same 20 easels right here on my supply shelf that I bought when I first started my paint and sip studio, and I still bring them with me. They've lasted that long. And then the third thing is aprons. People will really appreciate you having an apron to provide them. That way they don't get paint all over their clothes, and you just are responsible for washing the aprons between each paint and sip. Now, until you get really established, you can just use paper plates, styrofoam plates to put the paint on. You don't need to go invest in fancy palettes. You don't need to start out purchasing 10 tables and chairs like I did. I actually started with a GoFundMe so that I could buy all my tables and chairs. Thank you to all the people that believed in my dream before it was anything. But most of the time, if you're going to set up at someone's location, at a workplace, at a house, you know, normally they have tables and chairs for you, but that is something you should ask. Ask and make sure that they have them provided for you. But 95% of the time, they are provided for you. So those are things you can invest in later. The biggest mistake I think people can make is getting too big too fast. You don't even know if your business is going to succeed, and you're already investing thousands of dollars in the supplies for that business. Then you get to the supplies that you're gonna need to purchase each week and that you're gonna use up each week. This is part of what you're charging your client for. Paint, paper towels, plastic water cups, canvases, and maybe some plastic tablecloths if you wanna bring those with you to protect your client's tables. For canvases, Buy the 5-pack at Michael's where they come out to like $2 each, okay? You don't need to buy fancy canvas. So when I was hosting my paint and sips in my studio, I was charging between $40 and $50 per person, depending on how complicated the design was. If I had to sketch out or stencil out an outline for every canvas, I charged a bit more because I had to spend a couple hours doing that prior to the class. If you are buying your materials right, from the right places, I think your cost per person should be around $10 for supplies, 10 to 15 maybe, meaning you're profiting $25 to $30 per person if you're charging $40 per person. So say you have a group of 15 people, you're spending $10 per person on supplies, you're profiting $30 per person, you're making a profit of about $450 in a couple hours. That is a nice chunk of change for extra income if you love what you're doing. If you have a group of 20 people and you're charging $50 per person, meaning you are profiting $40 per person, times 20 people, you're making $800 in a couple hours. Now, you know, when I do paint parties for staff events, it's not uncommon to have a group of 20 or more employees that want to paint. And when you're working with big companies, companies have a budget set aside for these kind of employee events. For me personally, my pricing for groups depends a little bit on group size. If I have a group of 9 or less, I'm definitely charging at least $40 per person. Sometimes if I get bigger groups of 10 or more, 10 to 20 to 30, then I will lower the individual rate a little bit. So the way that I sold my paint and sip seats was through my website, which I use Weebly, which is ran through Square. Now, I will give you a warning that I'm grandfathered into the old Weebly platform. The newer one is a little bit more confusing. So you can probably also do this in Squarespace or any other website provider. I have the ability to add a product to my website, and then under the category, you have physical product, digital download, or event ticket. So I would just filter it to be an event. So then a few days before the paint and sip, I would send out an email reminder to everybody that was registered. Now, I only really sent these emails out for my classes that I hosted in my studio, where it was a bunch of random people all coming to one event together for the public. This isn't really necessary when you're going to someone's event where everyone's already one big group. When holding these public classes, I would keep track of the attendance in a Google spreadsheet. So it did require a little bit of maintenance to be constantly updating every time someone signed up. But again, that would be later. That would be if you decide you want to have your own studio, right? You don't have to worry about any of that when you're just doing private birthday parties and showing up at someone's house. Well, obviously, the most important part here is the painting tutorial itself. So let me show you one of the ones that I just did last week at a Ronald McDonald House fundraiser in a assisted living center. This was the painting that we did. It's an acrylic painting. It took about an hour and a half for everybody to finish. It took me about 40 minutes to do by myself, but I can always expect to at least double that when I'm teaching to people who don't normally paint every day. My painters use this brand of paint, just Artist Loft paint from Michael's, as well as assorted paintbrushes that I also got at Michael's. When I very first started doing these paint and sips, I looked a lot up to Heidi Easley. She runs Texas Art and Soul, and she literally has a Facebook group and a community for people who host their own paint and sips, where you can literally use her templates for paintings. She has so much awesome material and information for you all, so totally go check out her YouTube page, actually. She's on YouTube. And let me know what other questions you have, what other things you want to learn about in the comments below. And I hope this was helpful for you. Oh, and don't forget to take a group photo once your group finishes their paint. This is a great way also to build your reputation as a paint and sip instructor, and people are going to see how many cool paintings are in the group photo and say, hey, I want to do that for my next birthday party. All right, guys, go get creative. My camera's about to die. Bye.